It's on fire! Look, just for a second. At this. Please.
Batman's siren is exploding.
Incredible. The spectacle of retribution has already swept across all of Russia in all its glory.
Is it starting? The war's starting. The drone. Athens.
Everyone is talking about it. Hundreds of drones have broken Russia down to molecules. The strikes, like a tornado, are sweeping away enemy territory. The revenge of the Ukrainian armed forces is in full swing. You have to see it to believe it. Our forces did it. Oil refineries are being destroyed, but Putin's legs have buckled. An energy catastrophe is breathing down Russia's neck. Shock. Donbas has spoken. Explosions and detonations everywhere. A storm of unprecedented scale is raging. Moscow is nervous. The end of the empire has crept up unnoticed. Hello, I'm Renata Aslanova, and all the explosive news is in our program Red Line. Breaking news. Ukrainian drones have struck the heart of Stavropol Krai. The Stavrolen plant, one of the Kremlin's key facilities, has come under attack. Ukrainian defenders did an excellent job. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reports lightning-fast successes.
The plant has a full cycle of hydrocarbon processing and produces polymers for manufacturing composite materials, body parts, seals, and insulation. Among other things, it also produces components for UAVs.
Previously, this facility was already attacked on October 29, 2025.
Unknown drones have become a real nuisance in the Rostov region as well. There's activity again.
Preliminarily, there are reports of hits on the ground. Official Rostov claims everything was shot down, but locals reported small fires.
And the loud party didn't skip the Oriol, Bryansk, Tula, Kaluga, and Moscow regions either. Moreover, the temporarily occupied territories are also getting ready to leave. In the Donetsk region, an ammunition depot has been destroyed.
The Batman signal is calling.
The Russians have been waiting for this. The front line is unfolding in the heart of Russia, 1,500 kilometers from Ukraine. A real war has begun in the city of Orsk. You have to see these scenes from the site.
It's starting. The war is starting. They're shooting them down. They're shooting them down.
A swarm of drones rises into the air while onlookers look around in amazement, trying to capture the moment on their phones.
A drone.
A strategic oil pipeline, which Putin guarded as a vital resource, has come under fire.
The attack on the local Orsknefteog-Syntez oil refinery, one of the largest processing plants in the region, continues.
Russia has come under a barrage. One of the main regions couldn't withstand the pressure. Previously, the Orsk refinery was a strategic stronghold for fuel in the Urals and along the Volga, and part of its output was exported. Today, that's no longer the case. And here, the night of terror in Russia continues. Saratov and Engels woke up to extremely powerful explosions. In Pavloriv, they witnessed dazzling flashes. The territory of the Saratov oil refinery is in flames. These are shocking scenes that have stirred the entire country. The locals are in a panic. After midnight, up to 7 explosions thundered. People couldn't believe their eyes.
Holy shit. Holy shit. Look at how it's burning. Holy shit. Look what that did.
It's hell in the city. Unknown objects were circling in the sky, and flames were rising over the southwest of Saratov. Sirens tore through the silence, and panicked people were asked to move away from windows and take cover.
Threat of attack without the presence of any pilots. Please listen carefully to the entire message until the end, and then follow the provided instructions as directed.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning.
In the feeling, turn off the lights. Again,
Fuck.
water. Do not approach or go near the windows, and instead move to the interior part of the room or to those specific areas that are located between solid, load-bearing walls and that do not have any windows. Remain there until it is safe to leave.
The authorities are silent. Rosavietsia has urgently closed the airport. Russia is in shock. The war has come deep into the country. Not a word about the scale of the destruction. And later, a repeated strike. The city trembled again from fiery explosions. The front is boiling over urgently. The Pokrovsky and Kupiansk directions are in the spotlight. The enemy has concentrated all its forces and is moving forward. The armed forces of Ukraine are holding back the enemy in battles the world has never seen before. Right now, the fate of Donbas is being decided. Putin is issuing insane orders, and the situation is escalating. A turning point could come at any moment. The defense forces are preparing a powerful strike against Putin's army. All the details are coming up next.
The Institute for the Study of War reports that Russia is reducing pressure on the Ukrainian armed forces' positions in Pokrovsky. According to analysts, the pace of the Russian offensive has slowed due to colossal losses. And now, those who managed to survive the local assaults are waiting for reinforcements and hoping to restore logistics.
The Russians have reduced their activity in the city and decreased the number of movements. In this way, the Russian armed forces are trying to minimize their losses and are waiting for reinforcements from their main forces. This is confirmed by attempts of Russian forces to establish logistics through the southern outskirts of Pokrovsky. In particular, in this area, the Russians tried several times to transfer personnel using vehicles and motorcycles. The defense forces did not allow this to happen.
At the same time, the occupiers' main objective today is to cut off Ukrainian logistics. The command notes that they have not succeeded in doing this. This is primarily due to the timely deployment of special units from the GUR, SPU and SSO.
In tactical terms, there are indeed two objectives we can highlight here, tactical and strategic. Tactically, it was to repel positions north of the city of Pokrovsk itself and from Pokrovsk. The enemy's positions affect logistics, which in many ways are indeed under the fire control of the Russian occupiers. However, this is not physical control. And today it was possible to create some alternative, albeit small, logistical corridors through which troops can still be supplied.
Meanwhile, the East grouping of the Ukrainian armed forces reported yesterday that the defense forces have achieved partial success in the city. Assault units are clearing the city house by house and pushing the enemy back to the outskirts. As the military says, it is simply impossible to clearly define the positions of the sides in Pokrovsk today. It's just impossible. After all, practically the entire settlement has turned into
A zone is a defined area or region that is separated from others by specific boundaries and is designated for a particular use or purpose. Success, well, it's honestly a little hard to say for sure.
Meanwhile, Russia is trying to advance beyond the settlement, encircling it in a pincer movement. From the north, meanwhile, the enemy suffers huge losses every day, essentially achieving no results. On the contrary, units, particularly Azov, that managed to eliminate the Russian breakthrough toward Dobropilya, are moving ever closer directly to Pokrovsk. And this guarantees that the city will not be encircled from the north, at the very least.
By and large, the completion of this counter-offensive operation is smoothly transitioning and will most likely transition into the elimination of this northern snot of the Russians, which is aimed at encircling Pokrovsk, Mirnohrad. So, on the one hand, the enemy's plan is absolutely clear, and our command's plan is also clear and specifically aimed at deblockading the Pokrovsk grouping.
Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky also commented on the situation. According to him, Pokrovsk is now a continuous fortified area. There are several places where the Russians managed to slip through the engineering barriers. But the Ukrainian armed forces know exactly where these places are. Therefore, the situation is generally under control. At the same time, Syrskyi added that the command already has plans B and V for all possible developments. Meanwhile, the Russian grouping has identified the Kharkiv region, specifically the city of Kupiansk, as its second most important pressure point. Another Russian statement about encircling Ukrainian troops there was refuted by Viktor Trehubov, head of the press service of the joint forces. In turn, military analysts note that the enemy is trying to use the Pokrovsk tactic here. However, its results are much more modest.
In the Kupiansk direction, in Kupiansk itself, the situation is significantly different. It seems that our command and our defenders have managed to bring the situation under control. And the enemy's actions in the city turned out to be less effective than the Russian command had hoped.
Another important reason for the pressure on Kupiansk, experts say, is to prevent Ukraine from transferring reserves to Pokrovsk. As is known, Putin gave his army until Friday to temporarily capture the city. And now the Russian command has concentrated half of its entire grouping in Ukraine right here.
Putin has set a strategic objective to capture the Pokrovsk agglomeration. He has not managed to advance on all sectors. He assumed that this would be an advance from Sumy region, Kharkiv region, from the 3 points we mentioned, towards the sector, for example, Kupiansk and further on. Already from Luhansk and Lyman, they began to launch offensives from different directions. Of course, he believed the breakthrough would be in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia regions, but there weren't enough forces and resources. And
analysts add that there probably still won't be enough. According to our Center for Countering Disinformation, Russian army losses in the battle for Pokrovsk exceed both the number of new contract soldiers and mercenaries from other countries.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now. Ukraine is delivering a powerful blow to the heart of Russia. Darkness, like a terrifying boomerang, is rolling across Russian territory. Regions are losing power one after another, while Ukrainian armed forces' drones don't stop for a minute. Local residents are forced to endure furious chaos. There's no electricity, and there's no point in hoping for heat either. For the first time in a long while, Moscow has felt real pressure. You have to see this with your own eyes.
On the night of November 9th, the Ukrainian armed forces struck the Voronezh thermal power plant. After the strike, electricity disappeared in several houses and then came back. The Voronezh thermal power plant is one of the largest supplies of heat energy in the region and provides it to 4 districts of the city.
it happened right before my eyes. I had just stepped out onto the balcony. Right over there, exactly. Along the wires, apparently, basically. No, well, I heard 3, but they're saying 4. In
Belgorod, this incident was attacked, leaving tens of thousands of residents without power. The governor of the region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, stated that the damage is very serious.
As a result of last night's rocket attack, there is serious damage to the power and heating supply systems of the city of Belgorod. But our energy workers, as always, are heroically trying to cope with the task at hand. They are currently working on restoration from the damage inflicted on us by the enemy.
A day earlier, Ukrainian drones struck energy facilities in Saratov, Engels, and the Volgograd region. Power outages were also recorded there. With massive drone and missile attacks, Russia is trying to plunge Ukraine into a blackout. In turn, the Ukrainian army is carrying out symmetrical strikes on Russia's energy sector. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the authorities are ready and will not only defend the infrastructure, but also deliver retaliatory strikes.
What will happen with the electricity? Today, it's hard for me to say. We will be ready for any retaliatory challenges. We work on this every day. We will defend, we will fight. The Russians must know that step by step we will increase the production of everything so that they also feel what we feel. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine. In
2025, Russia is experiencing a trend of increasing electricity shortages as of October this year. The shortage of capacity in the power grid reaches tens of gigawatts. This was reported by the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine.
Due to demand from industrial, residential, and municipal consumers exceeding the total generation of all power plants, as of October this year, the shortage of capacity in the power grid has already reached 25 gigawatts. Despite attempts by the REF government to introduce at least some measures to stabilize its energy system, such as monetary compensation or discounts on electricity bills for voluntarily reducing consumption during peak hours, as well as disconnecting consumers who do not require guaranteed power supply, the growing electricity deficit points to a systemic crisis in the Russian energy sector. The Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine.
In addition to wear and overload, systematic strikes by the AFU are also affecting the Russian energy system. If Ukrainian strikes even partially damage Russian thermal power plants, this will cause significant problems for Russia's energy sector. The AFU have already brought a blackout in southern Russia 60% closer.
The AFU strikes are gradually knocking out high-voltage substations, which make it possible to transfer electricity from one region to another. If the thermal power plants are also destroyed, their situation will be much more difficult than ours. Alexander Karchenko, director of the Energy Research Center. From
not only Russian regions, but also Moscow are suffering from Ukrainian drone attacks and the lack of electricity.
This has a very serious, not just propagandistic impact directly on the Kremlin. Let me remind you that one of the reasons for launching the so-called special military operation was the issue of guaranteeing the security of the Russian Federation itself. At least that's how Putin and his inner circle explained it. We see how the war is coming directly to Moscow. And not just to Muscovites. We see that the geography of Ukraine's drone attacks is expanding.
Ukrainians have long since gotten used to and adapted to power and heating outages. But for Russians, this is an unexpected surprise. So it's time to start stocking up on matches, candles, and firewood.
Moscow is at the center of chaos. Ukrainian drones have delivered powerful strikes. A series of targeted attacks has turned the Russian capital upside down and exposed its weakness. Destruction on enemy territory has never been so large-scale and loud. Videos from the scene immediately spread across the internet, and the blackout is starting to noticeably affect the lives of Russians. Moscow residents found themselves at the epicenter of the disaster, and the Kremlin is forced to admit the failure of its own air defense. Details and consequences of the operation in the next segment.
Ukrainian drones are striking the Russian energy system more frequently and on a larger scale. On the night of October 5th, Ukrainian UAVs attacked energy infrastructure in the Vladimir and Oryol regions. In Vladimir, the strike hit a 750 kilowatt substation in the suburbs. Local residents claim that the city was attacked by missiles, not UAVs. Killed? Killed. In Oryol, explosions thundered in the area of the local CHP plant, the largest source of electricity and heat in the region. The attack was most likely a missile strike, since in the video there are neither the sounds of air defense nor the buzzing of drones. Here it is.
That was the bang.
This is already the second attack on the Oryol CHP plant in the past week. On October 31st, it was hit by Neptune cruise missiles. At that time, the city was left without power. Also, on the last day of October, the Vladimir CHP plant was on fire as well.
Moreover, this substation supplies electricity to the central region, including Moscow, Vladimir, Nizhny Novgorod, and partially Ivanovo regions. In general, it also participates in power transmission, from the Kalinin nuclear power plant to the Kostroma GRES and other major energy sources.
The stable operation of the Vladimir substation is critically important for the reliability of the Russian energy system's balance. It holds special significance. Energy from the Kalinin nuclear power plant is supplied through it. This makes the substation one of the key facilities for the Moscow energy hub. In SU, they want to cause a blackout in Belokrinsk by striking substations around Moscow, including Kamenaya.
In recent weeks, attacks on important energy nodes have been recorded. Arzamovskaya 500 kilovolts on October 14th, Balashovskaya 500 kilovolts on October 16th and 25th, Vladimirskaya 750 kilovolts on October 17th and 31st, and November 5th, Vishkema 500 kilovolts on October 18th, Novobryanskaya 750 kilovolts on October 29th, Lipetskaya 500 kilovolts on November 2nd, Frolovskaya 500 kilovolts on November 3rd. According to industry analysts, the goal of the strikes is to deprive Moscow of the ability to receive maneuverable electricity from the Volga hydroelectric power stations.
Before these strikes on substations, the head of Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Brody, warned that Muscovites should start preparing for blackouts.
A blackout is nothing to be afraid of. The SBS birds, together with other components of Ukraine's deep strike capabilities, promise you a rapid, albeit forced, adaptation. But you'll manage. Matches, flashlights, candles. By the way, take the opportunity to use your favorite battery-powered garlands too. We won't be informing you about every 750 kilowatts, 500 kilowatts, and so on line that gets battered by the birds. Just go by the principle: light, warmth, boom, darkness, cold. And your open source intelligence in public channels is still working flawlessly as long as there's internet. The strikes were announced, and the strikes happened. And the enemy, even knowing which infrastructure would be targeted, was unable to organize an effective defense. There were announcements that blackouts were expected, and only after that did the drones take off.
If such strikes continue, in the short term, Moscow will be left without electricity. Plus, there are strikes on gas storage facilities and gas distribution stations. Then the capital of the Russian Federation will be left not only without electricity, but also without heat.
What do you think will be the main thing that finally brings Russia down? Share your opinion in the comments. Like this video for updates on the most important news. More soon.